Hello everybody, today I have the pleasure to propose to you this key 78 entitled Matrix, Different Reality or Different Realities. Well, this is the second video for which you can watch it directly or start with the first one. There is no necessary connection, even if it's better to watch by order. Well, what is reality at first sight, a priori? Well, we live in a world of five senses, for which there are, as you know, 5 senses. And the king of this kingdom is definitely the sight, how we see things. Well, we live in a world of images, okay, a visual and a materialistic and material world, tending towards a single way of thinking. Well, this is a paradox because when you see, for example, fashion industry, this is kind of a standard, okay, standardized. And for example, because all brands, they have the same assortment everywhere in the world, whatever the countries. And actually, it's everybody wants to differentiate and in the same time to keep on following the trends and fashion and remaining in the moods. Okay, this is a paradox. Well, we're in a visual world and a material and materialistic world. Yeah, it's true. I mean, is this real? I don't know. But actually, this is what a lot of people think it is the truth. Believer or not, I mean, spiritual or religious. Non-believers think everything should be they need to see, to consider is real, and this is reality. And they consider they are down to earth, okay? And they aspire to tangible things, to believe in it. For them, invisible, believing in invisible is like fairy tales. Believing in God is like believing in Santa Cruz. Believing in Satan is believing in the wolf, okay? So, but they would be shocked probably if, like turbulence, if they consider, even if they are down to earth, that nothing is stable. When you see that, it's full of electrons, and this stone is moving all the time, is changing all the time. Even me, I'm made of atoms, electrons, and so on. I'm moving all the time, and disappearing, appearing, disappearing all the time. It's just so rapid that our eyes cannot perceive it. But this is reality. We are in a vision, a stroboscopic vision in real. It's like, you know, down to earth people think everything is stable, and they anchor to that, and they reassure their reality as this, to have experienced several times earthquake, and not earthquake. Actually nothing is tangible because these are, you know, plaques, okay, upper magma. So even that is always moving. Here in Ankara, it's moving all the time. Every day it's around 4. So it's not earthquake, of course, but it's moving all the time. Okay, we don't perceive it, we don't feel it. Sometimes just a bit, but it's almost nothing. But so it means even that is not stable. Nothing is stable actually. We are in a visual, apparently, a visual and a physical world, but just for us to know the spectrum of light, as we can perceive it, is 1/10,000 of billions. Okay, what does it mean? It means that what we can see is really extremely narrow. In the spectrum of lights, okay, we can just see even not that, okay, only between 450 Hertz and 700 Hertz, okay, from red to violet, okay. Upper, under, you cannot see ultraviolet, and infrared. You cannot say gamma waves. You cannot see Wi-Fi, radio, radar, and so on and so forth. You cannot see an X-ray, and they exist. Okay, so actually we are really observing reality with our capacity of our senses, like through you know, the keyhole of a door. You know, in science, and is stated like this, is official, the reality that you have here is only 4% of matter, physical matter, 4%. 27% is made of black matter, okay, invisible, and 69% is made of invisible matter. What does it mean? It means that we can see 4% of reality, and within the 4%, you saw that's even that it's just a tiny part of it. So, you know, Saint Thomas, okay, will believe only in what he can see, and those who are really down to earth, thinking and are being convinced that reality is like this, is materialistic, is tangible, is physical, actually, unfortunately, apparently is a bit narrowed. Well, you know, our brain can just check and see and perceive 2,000 bytes of information. This landscape, you can see only 2,000 bytes of information, despite the fact that there are 400 millions of bytes of information. But there are so many information that if you had everything, you would be confused. That's why your consciousness, your focusing point is like a filter to avoid to have too many information. But even when you are at home or in city and so on, there are a lot of waves, Wi-Fi, radio, TV, and so on. You cannot perceive them. Why? Because you are not capable to, let's say, to decode them, but they exist. Okay, it's the same, and this is what I said and explained in the video regarding hereafter. It's the video, serial video 75, second video. The fact that the medium can see angels, can see entity, ghost, and so on. It's question of frequencies, and other they are not capable. That said, this is the same principle, and doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. You know, it's like the radio when you have the tuner and you tune on FM, free waves. Okay, you have music. MW, medium waves, you have maybe news, and LW, low waves, maybe you have sport. Okay, so the programs exist independently of you and your tuner. Okay, so you switch off, it's still existing. Okay, but it's just your capacity to access to a certain information which are already there despite your gaze or your senses. So I insist, the physical world is made of 4% only. 4% is made of the physical world and materialistic. Okay, so, but even that, we based our society, our paradigm as materialistic dimension, physical dimension, and so on. Yeah, okay, but it's just partial, 4%. And in addition of that, Einstein said the following: what you call matter is basically energy whose the vibration has been highly reduced to be perceptible to our senses, concluding by there is no matter. He concluded by stating there is no matter. What you call matter is only energy whose the vibration has been reduced to be highly reduced to be perceptible to our senses. There is no matter. Okay, so what we can see here, this is only energy. Energy, 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 that's it, and data of information at the end. But this is what I explained in the series of videos 33, if you're interested. Well, we actually analyze everything according to a benchmark, okay, a reference, okay, a window, a discipline, a grid of analysis, and so on. A reference, we compare to something. All is relative. As I try to say, even the principle, the basics of our physics is from Einstein theory, the theory of relativity. What does it mean? It means that everything is relative according to the speed of light and so on. Okay, space-time and so on. No need to come back on it. We talked about that in the previous series of video 77, the first video and the second video. But, for example, the speed of my hand, or when I walk, okay, usually on average is 5 kilometers per hour, okay. But it's only according to my body, according to the ground. But actually, according to the Earth, because the planet is moving as well, is traveling at the same time at the speed of 108,000 kilometers per hour. So my 5 kilometers are completely absorbed by this speed. If I go further, compared to solar system and the galaxy, is 2.2 million kilometers per hour, and normally it's even per second. We convert in second. In the universe is even faster. In the supercluster is even faster, and so on. So, what is the speed? My speed. It's according to a point of a benchmark, a reference. Okay. You know, in Buddhism, it is said, the only impermanent thing is impermanence. And a great scientist and kind of philosopher, we could say, it's Trinh Xuan Thuan, is French Vietnamese. He said the following: the only thing that will never change is that everything always changes all the time. Okay? This is let's say the philosophy in Taoism. It is stated, you never bath twice in the same river. Why? Because the water is changing, and let's say the person also change. Okay, it's the same principle. When you read a book and personally conversation with God, I read when I was 20 years old. Then I read it maybe when I was 30 something. And 35, and few years ago, and now last year as well, and I'm gonna read it again probably in a few months. So in all, almost 5 times. Every time I perceive the story and the ideas are the same, of course, but the book didn't change, but my perception changed. Okay, I'm not the same person than 10 years ago when I was living in Shanghai in China, or when I was living in France when I was 25 years old, and when I was teenager in the north of France, and so on and so forth. Everybody is the same situation for most of people. We are changing all the time. Your body is dying, your cells are dying and reproduced every time. So, one thing extremely important: the map is not the territory. What does it mean? It means, it's a metaphor, and then I will try to explain, but to make it the metaphor, the map corresponds to the virtual world, and let's say the territory is the real physical world. What you watch now is not reality, is a video. It's not in the sense, in the space-time. It's not, you are not in front of me. You are not in Turkey. You are not at the same time, weekend of Eastern. Okay? So it's differed, is not at the same time, at the same place. Okay? And even you just have a square, so you cannot see if there is building here, dishes, and so, anyway. Okay, you just see a part of it. Okay, so this, what you see, is virtual. The landscape I see is not virtual. Okay, that's the difference. But we could consider many things later. But even let's focus on, it's not a metaphor, but just for you to understand that everything is relative. The map is not the territory. The distance of the border of whatever the country. If you see a perspective, you calculate through a satellite, okay, or with a bird's eye view, or with a surveyor chains, you know, the chain we use to measure a spot, okay, a land, and or a snail with the relief and so on, you will obtain always different results, okay, even the double for the snails, okay. The distance, the borders are changing from the territory. For example, with time. the frontiers of USSR before the fall of the Berlin Wall, 89, sorry. So in 86 or after, let's say in 93, Armenia is independent, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and so on, before they are part of a big one, okay, USSR, and so on. Okay, so even that, the erosion of, for example, Bangladesh apparently, due to the floodings and the water evolution, in 2050 or 2070, there is no Bangladesh anymore on the map. Okay, so everything is changing all the time. Even the frontiers that we consider they are fixed, they are not. They are evolving. So I insist, the map would be as the virtual world, and the territory would be kind of reality. So it's the same for, you know, the nucleus and the microparticle, okay? A stone is always changing, as I showed you, and even the bacteria or even the quantum dimension, concretely, to make it short, you can see this experiment of Jung, okay? The slit of Jung's slit, concretely, when you observe something, this is it, I mean, either you don't observe something, so it's like a sphere of probability, wave of potentiality, okay, potentialities, sorry. And then when you observe, the wave become a drop, like a particle, okay. Without the gaze, it's a probability, and thus it's informational, okay. It's not a particle, okay. So the observation impact the result of the observation. Okay, even time is an illusion, as you say, and as you saw in the previous series of videos, as Einstein say, past, present, and future are illusion, despite it is persistence. Okay, so all time exists all the time. All time exists all the time. I invite to check the different series of video regarding multidimensionality. But time prevents that everything from that everything happen at the same time. Time avoid that everything arrive at the same time, happen at the same time, and space avoid that everything is at the same place. Okay, compact at the same place, point of singularity. I invite you to think about that. The historical reality and the discoveries. For example, science is limited and evolutionary. Okay, Copernicus, Kepler, Galileo, and so on. The evolution of field of consciousness every time. The fact that the Earth is round, the rotation around the sun, and so on and so on. And tomorrow, we will have some new breakthrough, some new discoveries that we ignored so far. So the reality will change in few years. It's a matter of fact. Geography changed as well. Before Christopher Columbus, Europeans ignored that there are small islands in between the Pacific, I mean Atlantic Pacific, between Asia and Europe. Oh yeah, Americas. Okay, just small islands. Okay, so this was a narrow vision, and it's still evolving. Probably that even the cosmos, we will in astronomy, we discover in 1930 Pluto. Okay, in 1860 something, we discover Sirius, and the satellites later. The Dogons is tribes in Mali. They knew it since the 13th and 14th century. Okay, and they always say that they have been taught by visitors from the sky, and this I talk about that in the video 76 regarding extraterrestrial. Okay, in biology, same, it's evolving. Okay, for example, the structure of DNA at the beginning we thought it was fixed. You was born with it, and you died with it. Okay, we saw that with epigenetics that is changing according to your mindset. Okay, same for trash DNA. trash DNA, we consider that we only use a very tiny part of DNA, probably that in the future we will discover that it is a potential of abilities, okay? But so far we don't have. The moral reality evolve. For example, having sex before being married in France, in Europe, let's say, maybe less in Southern Europe, but in France, in Scandinavia, in Britain, and Germany, and so on, in North America, I assume, it's kind of okay. The society is open to that and so on. In Turkey, for example, it's not possible that you live with someone if you are not married. Okay, it's almost automatic. Okay, but in the past, and having sex before marriage, weddings, it's impossible. I know that my mother-in-law, she has when she get married with her husband, the family didn't want to see her anymore because the husband was divorced. And I know this story like in my relative and so on, like 3 or 4 times. Okay, so it was something like very, very bad. Nowadays, in France, half of people, 50% of people are divorced. Okay, so it's completely more open now. But I'm not judging, I'm just not saying it's good or it's bad, I'm just saying that is a matter of fact. Same for the scarf. The scarf, you know, the hijab for Muslim. In Iran, nowadays, it's forbidden to unveil, okay, not to wear it, okay? Before 79 in Iran, under the Shah of Iran, it was forbidden to wear the scarf. Okay, so what is currently compulsory was forbidden before, and vice versa. Okay, same in Afghanistan and so on. Okay, at the period of Jesus Christ, he had the scarf due to in the Middle East this period of time. I mean, still now, but this to avoid the sun. So it was hygienical, especially more than a notion of, let's say, to avoid the gaze of people. The woman's rights to vote, it has been evolving in a lot of philosophers, French philosopher, intellectual philosopher, and so on. They could not consider that the woman could do it. They were good at managing kids and the cuisine and so on, food. And imagine in France, it has been permitted in 1944. In Turkey here, it was in 1923. Okay, in India, 1926. The first one was in New Zealand in 1897, I think. Okay, and then 93, sorry. And in Australia, 1901. But only for white women, not for indigents and so on, the aborigines and so on. They were excluded till 70s. Okay, so and in Saudi Arabia recently in 2011 and effective in 2015. So same in France, supposed to be an open-minded country. The woman could be able to open up bank accounts in 65. I was born in 80. Okay, so 15 years before my birth, woman could not open up a bank account and couldn't work without the agreement of the husband. Okay, imagine the slavery. It's kind of, it means that they had no financial autonomy. So they were almost like slave. Same for the child labor. A lot of countries, I'm not saying that I'm in favor of that, of course not, but a lot of families in a lot of countries, they consider is a source of revenues, and without it can affect their financial survival. Okay, so an infanticide, what is it? Is the fact to kill the first kid. You know that in the history of humanity, it was systematic. In Mesopotamia, in Middle East and so on, okay, it was systematic. The first kid was offered to God. Okay, imagine the Creator wants that we sacrifice His creature. Does it make sense? Is this real? But it was really when Abraham stopped this let's say custom, let's say, he has been really unpopular. Okay, so Akhenaten in Egypt, for example, was a peacemaker, and he was not a warrior. He didn't want to invade Assyria or Persia and so on. He was not well perceived. That's why also he has been killed. Okay, so and probably now he would have had the prize Nobel. Slavery was for a long time normal. Okay, it was the reality, was normal. Abraham Lincoln was not popular, and Shelcher in France was in 1848, was not popular because of that. Even Lincoln declared that he didn't really care about slavery. He could have maintained it. It was not a big deal for him. Racism. For example, racism, it was a normality in the past. You know, in States, the segregation till and recently was the 55th anniversary of the death of Martin Luther King, and it was kind of normality in Australia as well till 70s, in South Africa till beginning of 90s. Imagine, I remember I was 11, 12 years old. But in France, for example, Jules Ferry is the one who gave a lot of rights, like for the kids, compulsory going to school, avoiding the work, the child labor and so on. He declared that it must be said openly that indeed the superior races have the right towards the inferior races. I repeat that there is a right for the superior races because there is a duty for them. They have the duty to civilize the inferior races. Imagine. So it was the open door for colonization and so on. I arrive, I impose my culture, my way of thinking, proselytism, I take your resources and so on, and then you shut up. Imagine the mentality. And was it real? Yeah, it was the reality in the past. You know, here in Turkey, for example, if you talk about Armenian genocide, you can go to jail or to have a fine. If you say you deny the Armenian genocide in France, you can have a penalty. So, I mean, what is true here is the contrary in France, and probably in other countries, same. Protecting a Jew in France or in Europe, in the Second World War, you could have been, killed for that. After the Second World War, you had a medal for that. Nowadays, especially in France and different countries, if you welcome a refugee at home, you can go to jail. So I invite you to think about that. So there are a lot of subjective realities. Is this true? It is real. Then they are fans of holograms. There is a music group of rock from Japan. There are a lot of people, they love them and they are fan of them. They have feelings for them. Is this real or not? Is this real that there are several people who confess that they are in love with their artificial intelligence or the inflatable doll? Imagine, okay? Their feelings are real or not? Okay, they're real. Okay, is this real? Is this reality? It's up to you to decide. When my son, the grandmother called, actually, is putting his leg into the camera because he thinks he can go inside. It's real for him. When I was young, I thought that if someone was taking a picture of me in front of the TV set, I would be projecting into the show, the TV show. And it was real for me, you know? And a lot of things like this, the kids, The kids, when they play cowboys, they play police and so on, they play I don't know, market and so on. They are in it, okay? Sometimes they cry because of the game, but it's just a game. But it's the same thing for us. You know, when you watch a movie, sometimes you are completely absorbed by it, okay? By the reality of this game. And sometimes we are also, as adults, bad players, not fair play. You broke my toy, or I don't want to lend this and this, you know, when we are selfish, or oh, the life is unfair because normally I have 10 million dividend per year, and due to the crisis only 5 million. Oh, wow, it's too unfair. You see my point. And by the way, I could use this image. If it's 10 billion of dividend due to the crisis, normally you don't have less, you have more. And this is what happened with LVMH and so on. Otherwise, well, anyway, I think you understand my point. When you watch a movie and so on, you have a joy, you have a pain, and so on. Is this real or not? So what is reality? When you die, when you pass away, when you wake up from a dream, is the same. Everything was real. When you die, apparently it's like wake up. When you wake up the morning and just you take I talk about that in the Hereafter series of videos 75, the first one and the first one, explaining that when you pass away, the final judgment doesn't exist like we think. It's just you try to discharge the whole energy of what you experiment. So then when you are peaceful and in harmony with everything, you can go through. Okay, so but actually, you have such a perspective, is a metaphor, but like when you have from the sky, you can see the landscape from the plane and aerial vision, and the mountains and the valleys, they don't have any relief. It's like flat, it's like equal, it's the same for feelings and so on. If I don't know, the little John broke my toy when I was in the school when I was 3 years old. Now, if I see him and I meet him back, I will not fight with him for that. I will laugh about this because I have a certain distance and so on. I think it's the same when you passed away, because you wake up from a dream, and so on. So it's probably something that it's important to understand through a different perspective. I'm going to read you something that you can find in Synthesis of Synthesis. Normally there is 13 layers of perception, but I just give you 4 of them to see that according to your interest and your sensitivity and so on, you don't perceive from even tangible things, you don't perceive the same elements according to your vibration. Some books unbook us from our egotistical presence. The illiterates perceive books as only meaningless symbols. The materialist perceives books as expensive and their covers as golden or dilapidated. The dreamer perceives books as doors, giving way to new horizons and widening the fields of consciousness and perception in an unlimited way. The initiate and enlightened simple illiterates perceive books as everywhere and every time in the unique, Y-O-U, unique, great book of life. So this is entitled A Book to Book an Eternal and Incredible Fingerprint in Infinity. I invite you to think about that, all this information, and to try to question your existence, your reality, and I hope all this information will help you to shape the master key to open up the door of consciousness, reality, love, whatever you want. As you know, all the roads lead to Rome and to the Dome and to home. Thank you for your attention and see you very soon.